But where are you sitting? No.
Help me with this.
Can you hear me? Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome and thank you for attending tonight here at Nedbank head office in Sandton. I'd also like to welcome everybody around the country who's watching tonight on Crowdcast. Marnus, what's the final figure there? 83 registered, and so far 68 are live. And so welcome to all of you watching from remote areas, including Russell Hill down in the Eastern Cape, who thought he wasn't going to make it. Okay. We'd like to welcome and thank Dr. Louis Mullender, our registrar from the Allied Health Professions Council of South Africa, and Dr. Chris Yelverton, the chairperson of Allied Health. Thank you for being here tonight. We appreciate it, and we look forward to a robust and friendly evening. Welcome to our Madam President tonight, Dr. Kendra De Silva. Thank you. Thank you for everything you do for us. Our Vice President, Luke Schmidt, and our councillors, Dr. Lisa Dickerson, Dr. Grant Irons, on our webcast, Dr. Bridget Bromfeld, Dr. Brett Allison, and Dr. Charmaine Dell. A big thank you to the Gauteng branch committee members. Melissa Ruthven, thank you for everything you've done. Again, Dr. Lisa Dickerson, Dr. Glenn Payton, Dr. Chase McWilliam, and Dr. Zelda Barker. Thank you. Without you guys tonight wouldn't be a success. And also a very big thank you to Mr. Mike De Silva, who's our IT guru, who helps all of our registration and the conversion onto the digital system become a reality. And it's a difficult thing to change 40 years in a year or so, but he's doing a wonderful job, and we'd like to thank you very much, Mike. And then also a big thank you to AV and Beyond, our production company, who's helping us take this live, and the wonderful setup you've done for us tonight. Thank you very much. Marnus in particular, thank you for all the conversation after hours. I appreciate that. Also like to say thank you to our corporate sponsors for the evening. I'd like to say thank you to Ergotherapy, High Tech Therapy, the IT company, and also Cycle Lab. And the biggest sponsor of all, we'd like to say a very big thank you to Nedbank for hosting us for our branch meetings, as well as our congress that is to come in September. And Siddiqa Rahim from Nedbank, who is the spokesperson and helps me, and also after hours phone calls. And Siddiqa, I really appreciate your help. Your team at Nedbank have been wonderful, and we really do appreciate what you guys are doing for us. Just talking about Congress, I'd like to welcome all of you to our annual Chiropractic Congress in September, CASA it promises to put on a wonderful show for all of you. This year we're not having a golf day. Reason being is that we'd like you to start the Congress on the Thursday night, the 20th of September, with a cocktail evening. And as you can see, this building is beautiful. In fact, this atrium is not where it's going to be. We're going to be in the big atrium, and it's quite spectacular. And we are very fortunate to actually have a proud sponsor in Johnny Walker, who are going to be sponsoring all our friends over here. So if you attend, they would like to actually promote their Blue Label brand. So if you guys are interested, you're most welcome.
It's in breach of the code of ethics.
And apparently it's in breach of the code of ethics, according to the registrar. So yeah, please join us on the Thursday evening, and also give us time to mingle with the exhibitors. It's going to be a wonderful Congress. On the Saturday night, we are having the dinner dance bash, and when I say bash, I mean bash. It's not so much just the traditional sit-down black tie thing. We're getting from Hot FM Sasha Martinengo, who's going to play music for us and keep us entertained. And once again, Johnny Walker are going to come to the party as well and have a big pop-up bar. So, yeah, enough about the drinking side of things. So for CPD, and Dr. Mullender is also going to highlight the importance of CPD. The attending people, as well as the crowdcast people, will be getting the full CPD, and this is to encourage everybody to participate in the pool of knowledge. In years gone by, the conference was just for select few, and it didn't involve everybody, and that's why most of us, or a lot of us, never got the actual knowledge that we needed and education we needed. So now we are rectifying things and we're taking it to you. But we'd like you guys to actually, the people around the country who can't make it, we'd like you guys to please partake. The biggest expense at the Congress is the production of this. If it was just a typical Congress at a hotel, just for 180 odd people, it would be a lot cheaper, less expense to CASA. But fortunately, we have got some wonderful sponsors. We have been lucky to, before I even talk about prizes, just to also remind people who are webcasting, you will be allowed to attend the AGM on a separate link. That's obviously only for CASA members. At this point in time, there's no voting, but you certainly would like you to also have a look and see what we are doing. Going to prizes and giving you the reason why you need to fly up from Cape Town and come and be a part of our conference is we're giving away some wonderful prizes. We are lucky to be working in collaboration with Cycle Lab, and they are helping us with a giveaway spot prize of a 30,000 Rand mountain bike for a lucky chiropractor. And we also are lucky to get into a relationship with Virgin Active, and they would like to give at least one person a 1-year free subscription to Virgin Active. We are also going to be giving away a weekend away at Piedmont Global Resort. We certainly are going to give away hospitality tickets to the Nedbank Golf Challenge. And once again, Johnny Walker would like to also give a couple of bottles of Johnny Walker Blue Label. So you stand a chance of, if you are a whiskey drinker, okay. And then lots of gift vouchers, and I am working on a lot of other sponsors, so don't be surprised. We're going to probably have a lot more prizes than this. And most importantly, to be attending the conference is to come and meet our wonderful presenters. These people are flying over from America. Dr. Tom Hyde, who's author of Conservative Management of Sports Injuries. Dr. Margaret Serin, who's a diplomat in chiropractic radiology. Dr. John K. Highland, who's also a diplomat in chiropractic radiology. They're going to cover a lot of MRI analysis, often where a lot of us fall short in understanding MR analysis. Then we also have Dr. His proper name is Dr. Josip Kacik. We call him Dr. Chuck. He's in practice at Four Ways Life Hospital and in Rosebank. And he is a hip surgeon who does a lot of minimally invasive hip surgery and has done a lot of research, PhD into labral pathology and arthroscopy of the hip joint, which there are only a select few who are doing this and doing it successfully. And then we're also having Dr. Ariel Ale, who's a vascular surgeon, and he's going to be covering thoracic outlet for us. And the complexities around this condition are plenty and often misdiagnosed for cervical radiculopathies. And he's one of the few in this country who's doing decompression of thoracic outlet via arthroscopic technique. Traditionally, it was done through the axilla. In fact, before then, it was done from the posterior approach between the ribs and removing a rib, which was very invasive and quite dangerous. And this technique, patient actually is out almost the following day. I had a patient actually recently was only in one night and had complete swelling of the forearm, and it's been a resounding success. So it'll be a very interesting lecture. And then we've got Dr. Sean McCoy, who's a PhD, and he's a CEO of HKLM Branding and Marketing, who's going to give us a different perspective on you, the brand, and our profession as a brand. And he's lectured all around the world, and we are very honored to have him and our presenters coming across. I think it's a great lineup, and I think you guys need to get really excited about it. And like I said, if you can't get up to Johannesburg, then you have to still support the initiative and get a load of this and crowdcast us. One of the biggest things about this Congress is the price. Our CASA has gone out on a limb here, and we've negotiated a fantastic fee for you guys, and at 2,800 Rand for a full CASA member attending a conference of this magnitude. And I can assure you I've been to conferences in America and Las Vegas, and I'm telling you now, this will be up there. And so for 2,800 Rand, we are doing very well. So please, guys, support us. And Dr. De Silva has pointed out, please, anyone in the room here who hasn't scanned in, please scan in, otherwise you're going to miss out on your CPD points. Okay, so it is only with the help of Nedbank that we are able to give you a 2,800 Rand conference. And we'd just like to, is she here? Where are you? Are you hiding away there? Okay. All right, we'd like to welcome the Provincial Manager for Professional, Medical and Small Business Banking in Gauteng from Nedbank, Regina Gounder. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Mike, thank you for the opportunity. To our esteemed guests, it is wonderful to have you here. To the members that are on the webcast, welcome to Nedbank. And to you that are in front of me, It is really a privilege for us to actually share Nedbank's premises with you. So really, I am honored to be here tonight, and I'm very thankful that we have been given this opportunity to partner with you, not only tonight, but I believe at the conference as well. So there's a lot that we have to share. The one thing I want to say to you, Mike, after all that you've just said, you sure you didn't want to get Johnny Walker here tonight? You could have just like taken us a whole lot forward, you know. So now that has put us into a good mood. Let me just say, guys, I understand that the team that I'm speaking to are professionals in the medical field. So doctors who know exactly what you need to do. But what I want to share with you is that I see myself as a doctor as well. But I'm just your financial doctor. Now, your practice, your profession can only become 100% whole as long as you've got your financials right. Because the only way you succeed in taking yourself further or expanding in the business that you are in is that if you get your financial management right, and you also have a partner that walks with you through this journey. So I'm not going to talk a whole host of stories, but rather just take you through a couple of factors that I believe that can add huge value to your business. And then I'll leave it on to our speaker for the night. Okay. So just introducing to you our exclusive banking package designed especially for you, our medical professions. So what we've got is, with me, I have Janine and I have Karina, my two ladies down there. If you haven't met them as yet, please do, because they are extremely skilled in just dealing with our medical professionals. So thank you, ladies, for being here tonight and making the time to be here. So this is what we talk around: a personal banking relationship with flexible benefits, a dedicated relationship manager in the ladies that I've just shown you, and we have them throughout the provinces. So you could be in Gauteng, or you could be in the Eastern Province, and you've got a relationship manager that just deals with the medical professions. So your relationship manager is also backed with a team of specialists with deep knowledge and understanding of the complexities that you go through. So that is just a backdrop in terms of the way we understand the strategy of dealing with our professionals, both young and graduated professional or traditional ones that are already in the business for quite a while. So we've kind of, from a strategic point of view, we've kind of segmented it in 2 points, where you have your young professionals coming up with your graduates, and we've got the practicing professionals that are in business as well. So for you and your family, what can we offer you? Very simple: professional banking offering including platinum status, local and international travel benefits, reward benefits, and at a bundle fee of $2.99. We don't want to sell price, ladies and gentlemen. What we do want to sell is relationships. You know, the only way you can add value to what we can offer you is when we take you from point A to point B to where your goal sets out for you to be. So I believe that, you know, when you put a value to what you do, price should never be an issue. And I would imagine that when you're dealing with your clients, you do exactly the same. When somebody has a problem, price is not the issue. It's you giving them the value that they so deserve. So we'd like to see that in the value that we give to you as clients as well. So the one new thing I just want to share with you in this, that for the young professionals, that means if you have a degree, you're under 30 years old, we have completely redesigned a value proposition that meets your needs as a graduate. If you are a graduate right now, you are graduating this year, and you're going into practice or internships, there is a value proposition that we have for you to tailor-make your financial needs at the point of where you are to where you want to go. So that talks to the young professional. And then we talk to the ones that are already in practice. What we've said is that we just don't want to take care of you. We want to take care of you and your family and your associate partners that deal with you for a value proposition that kind of meets everyone's need, that is linked to you. So what are some of the things we can see for your needs is your practice, looking at your financials in a very different way. So we talk around vehicle and asset financing and specialized medical equipment. I'm told, and then this is interesting, because I looked at some of the very small, tiny chiropractors that are sitting and say, how do you move those big bodies around, you know? And I'm told that you've got a special chair that does that. And so if you do have that special chair at a very special price that you probably pay for it, this is where the specialized medical equipment comes into space. And we've got specialized solutions to make you meet those needs. So that's really amazing. Everything else that sits here, ladies and gentlemen, is kind of, you can get anywhere. A banking account is a banking account. What you do not get everywhere is a relationship. And so that's what we'd like to bring to you. Relationship banking that takes care of you, your practice, your family, and also for the young graduates. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the gap access just now, and then So introducing gap access, you may be wondering what this is. I would imagine that some of you have got merchant machines that you use in your practices, where people pay a swipe with their cards in your space. And then, as your business grows, the more you use those machines and the turnover gets higher, you'd find that through those swipes, we have catered a special product that just talks to gap access. Does not touch, it actually increases your cash flow and makes your operational ability a whole lot better than where you are at a very minimum cost-efficient way that you can actually expand your business and create cash flow for yourselves. So funds can be accessed very quickly and minimum paperwork. Pricing structure is very transparent. In fact, it's so efficient, there'd be no reason, if you're in a practice using your card machines, why you won't take this offer. And if merchant transactions increase, the CASA, so you can, it's almost a revolving facility through gap access, just through using your merchant machine, where you can then create more cash flow and liquidity in your business. So this is the point of sale that we talk around, and if you look at it, just if you look at the fees, out in the marketplace currently, the minimum fee that is given to any merchant machine is 1.25. For our medical professions, we've got 0.87, 1.95, and you can see that. And even then, we are still negotiable on that, depending on what you put through in your business. So very, very cost-effective and very beneficial to your practice. Now, we say every cent counts, and we say that we are money experts who do good. And how then we become money experts who do good? By creating liquidity for you. And the only way we can create liquidity for you is coming through to you with the fantastic solutions that would absolutely meet your need. Okay? And so my story ends right here. In order to talk to us about any of these benefits, I would ask that you perhaps get hold of us, talk to us through Mike. We will connect with Mike, and the team. So if you need us, and we can be right at your doorstep. The one other thing I want to share with you, and just as of Monday, we've got a new signature card that has come out, a new platinum signature card that is coming out for both the young professionals and for our established businesses, where you would have international lounge access through our partners. So you'd be able to do that, and you'd be able to have your kids come in with you, and you can take one partner free into those lounges as well. It's exceptionally, if you're a traveler, I tell you what, this is hugely benefit. If you know how much time you spend in transit, and you're waiting for planes and things like that, this is a huge benefit, all comes with our costing price, with our bundles that you have. So I'd love to engage with you going further in the future, and again, Mike and the team, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to be with you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Regina. Thank you to Nedbank and your team. Really appreciate it. Karina, Janine, thank you. All right, without any further ado, we'd like to get going with the evening's proceedings. And so the way it's going to work is Dr. De Silva and myself will be asking Dr. Malanda a few questions. We will also allow some questions from the floor, but obviously it's going to be limited. Okay.
I'm just going to start this off. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for all being here. And for those of you on the webcast, I'm really pleased that we have this opportunity to make this information available to everyone around the country. I just want to begin by thanking Dr. Malanda for taking time out to be here tonight. We have tried to tie him down to a date, and finally he is here with us. To start off with, we get a lot of queries from the profession, and I just want to make one thing very clear, and that is the difference between the Chiropractic Association and Allied Health. And I think the membership sometimes gets it a little bit confused. Allied Health Professions Council is your statutory council. They are the guys who put the laws in place, who make sure you adhere to them. They are there to make sure that everything runs smoothly, professionally, according to the law. The Chiropractic Association is a voluntary body. The regulatory body, you have to be registered with them, otherwise you can't practice in this country. The association is voluntary. You don't have to belong to the association. It is advisable because strength in numbers, we are the ones who negotiate better rates for you. We are the ones who liaise between the medical aids and the profession. We even liaise between allied health and the profession. But when it comes to regulatory stuff, legal issues, the association is not the one who implements that, and we are not the ones who enforce it. And it is becoming increasingly difficult to even advise the members. So please don't take it as that we are just pushing you off when we say, please contact Allied Health. If we give you the incorrect information or we misinterpret it, we will be in trouble. We cannot be giving you incorrect information. Allied Health is very approachable, actually, surprisingly enough. An email to Dr. Malander is all it takes. If you have a query, ask him. If you come to me, I will answer as best I can, but when it comes to statutory things, I am going to send you on to the person who knows 100% what's going on. All right. I just needed to make that absolutely clear so there's no confusion between the roles that we play.
Thank you, Dr. De Silva, and thank you to CASA for the invitation here tonight, and hi to everybody in cyberspace. Maybe just to indicate that any statutory health council is constituted to protect the health of the public. Your professional association is there to promote your profession. That is a fundamental distinction which you have to bear in mind. We are obliged, in terms of law, to protect the patient, and therefore that is always our starting point. Your association is there to promote the interests of chiropractic, and indeed, thank you very much. I think we work well together, latterly, and Dr. De Silva is correct. If you have a legal query, send it to Council House. It's quite a quick turnaround time. You will get a reply within 24 hours, unless for legal reasons I need to cogitate on it or take advice. But you are more than welcome to approach Council House. And not all at once, and not on Monday, please. I have other work to do.
Thank you, Dr. Malander. This has become a very hot topic of late, the ethical guidelines, advertising. We've had a lot of new practitioners come into the field over the last couple of years, new graduates. We've got social media that is exploding all over. We've got so many platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, you name it, they're out there. And interpreting the law as it was and applying it to the situation we find ourselves in currently is sometimes a little bit challenging. And a good few of you, I know, have received friendly letters from the lawyers from Allied Health, and Dr. Malander will explain why that process is followed. So what prompted this evening was the amount of queries that we have got in. We have got a lot of questions from the profession, particularly relating to social media. So we're going to jump right in and start with some questions for Dr. Malander. Please take notes. Listen to the answers very carefully. Let us go through all of these. If you still have any burning issues, then we can take some questions at the end. All right. So we're going to start with on your social media platforms. Can we do live presentations, posts, or podcasts on a topic, particularly an informative basis, and post this on Facebook or other social media platforms?
Well, may I just preface the answer which I will give you with the point of view that, or my considered opinion, that some of your inquiries indicate to me that you have not bothered to read the Code of Ethics. It is available on our website. I don't believe it's written in such legalese that it cannot be understood. What is more of a problem for me is the fact that in the third CPD cycle, practitioners and therapists still don't quite understand what it is that is required of them. So you really do need to look at this. This code of ethics was developed by all professional boards. It is mandatory in terms of our Act, and it copies or takes sources from general principles of bioethics. It takes sources from the Act and the regulations. And these are not matters that have been decided by allied health. These are common throughout all statutory health councils, and maybe just a minor correction in law. It is in fact not allied health that develops legislation, it is the minister who does so. So it's up to the minister to take into consideration that which council proposes, indeed that which the CASA proposes as a stakeholder when anything is promulgated for comment. These principles and these the provisions that are mentioned in here are really common to all statutory health councils. Now, I accept that our Act is outdated. It may be unconstitutional in certain respects. We are revising all regulations at the moment. It's a long and tedious process, and I will get to a question about your scope of practice in due course. So, against the background of the question, the point really is that because Council's mandate is to protect the health of the public, you guys are bound, not only by a convention, but indeed by the law, that you should refrain from self-promotion. Patients and their families experiencing health problems are particularly vulnerable to persuasive, emotive advertising and publicity. You're at all times responsible for your own conduct. It's a very important thing to appreciate. Patients are entitled to be protected from misleading advertising or improper promotional and competitive activities amongst practitioners. What is particularly important in that regard is the which Act is it again? No, I've just forgotten. It's not the Competition Commission, it's the, I'll get to it.
About what?
Direct marketing is a problem in terms of the Consumer Protection Act. In fact, if I may deviate briefly, the Consumer Protection Act is also very important to you as a healthcare professional because the parameters of the Act have changed to a no-fault liability situation which replaces the common law. So I saw an advertisement for a bed up on that screen earlier, and I note that they are very expensive. What happens if you are manipulating or adjusting, whichever is the correct word, a patient and the bed collapses and the patient is injured? In terms of the Consumer Protection Act, that patient can now sue you directly, whether the fault is through the importer or the producer or anybody else. So that is something you should bear in mind. Your equipment is very important in your practice. But the Consumer Protection Act has changed the common law, and there is now no fault liability. And unfortunately for you, you are the closest that the patient understands about anything. So you are the one likely to be sued. However, when it comes to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and your registrar is a Luddite, I don't fiddle with any of those. So we draw a distinction in terms of the code of ethics between advertising and making your professional services known. Advertising is prohibited or proscribed in terms of the Act, the regulations, and the code of ethics. However, you may make your professional services known. And there's a whole blurb on page 28 of your code of ethics, which relates to information that may be included in notices or publications. But quite frankly, any live presentation on open media or social media will be regarded as advertising in a manner which is in contravention with our regulations and our code of ethics. It amounts to canvassing and touting, and your advertising and videos can draw attention to your personal qualities, superior knowledge, quality of service, professional guarantees, or best practice, which is disallowed. So the point about a live demonstration or a presentation on open media is that if you involve a patient, you are also in breach of confidentiality. We agree that the scenario exists that a patient may indeed give consent. But is it not a contravention of the Protection of Personal Information Act? You must appreciate that when we look at matters at Council House, and very often people will say to me, but Regulation 5492AE says this. That is not the way we interpret law. The most important course which you attend in any legal degree is actually the interpretation of statutes. Now, in certain respects, and we deal with the concepts of primary and secondary legislation. In certain respects, our act is primary legislation. But there are other acts which either impinge on or enhance our own act. The supreme instrument of law in this country is the Constitution. So whatever in that act, our act is unconstitutional, is obviously invalid. You are allowed to issue letters of indisposition, for example, because the Basic Conditions of Employment Act allow you to do that. And indeed it is mentioned in our act as well, which brings me to another point. Please check your letters of indisposition. We get complaints or queries rather on a regular basis, and people generally want to know, is this person entitled to issue a letter of indisposition, commonly called a sick note? And our answer is yes, you are a practitioner, you are a diagnostic practitioner, and you may do so, but the letter of indisposition itself does not comply with the provisions of the Act. It is therefore invalid, so you may ignore it. So the employer then goes to the patient and says, your letter is invalid, patient gets knocked with you. So you have to check that very carefully. So the answer in brief is that any live presentations are not allowed.
Thank you. Interestingly, I printed out a whole lot of Facebook advert posts by actually nobody in this room as examples for Dr. Malanda, and they're not allowed. Okay, so don't film yourself speaking Happy Monday and Titiveti Tuesday talks and whatever. As Dr. Malanda has alluded to, you're not allowed to do those.
May I just point out to one posting which I found incredibly amusing. Chiropractic.
You're not going to do it, are you?
I am. Like gravity, works whether you believe in it or not. Hello guys, gravity lets you down all the time. Why would you wish to demean your profession by putting such a gimmicky thing on Facebook? Come on. You are healthcare professionals. I expect better of you.
Thank you. Okay.
It's wonderfully amusing, but your registrar has other... I've been told I have a wicked sense of humor, which I don't agree with, but...
No, just different, not wicked.
It's a nonsense.
Okay. Right, there was an addendum to that question, but I think you've covered it. Whether the topic that we talk about has to be in our scope of practice. But you've said there are no talks, so it doesn't matter what it's about.
Does the topic have to be within our scope of practice, i.e. talks on nutrition, supplementation, acupressure points? Now, allow me to explain to you that acupressure points is not within your legal scope of practice anyway, where nutrition and supplementation or health products certainly is. So may I just share a frisson of council life with you. The Professional Board for Acupuncture, Ayurveda, Chinese Medicine and Acupuncture and Unani Tib came up with the idea that the entire body is an Ashi point. So Ashi points are points separate from meridian points in acupuncture, and since the entire body is an Ashi point, when you stick an acupuncture needle into a frozen muscle spindle, you are performing acupuncture, and therefore you have to be registered with them. So what we do in situations like that, apart from the heated debate and the fact that certain people lost their tempers, which was quite fun to watch, we go back in the law. So, and the fact of the matter is that your regulations in 2001, possibly prior to that, I always start in 2001, allowed you to do acupuncture. So for the purposes of the law, whether dry needling is acupuncture or not is absolutely and completely irrelevant. So you are allowed to do dry needling, and that is the decision that, having taken advice from external legal counsel, that is the decision which the Chinese Medicine Board has received. And so, yes, don't call it acupuncture though. We often see chiropractors who, in their advertising, tell the public they do acupuncture. Yes, there are 1 or 2 chiropractors who are registered acupuncturists, and that's perfectly legal. But if you are not a registered acupuncturist in the acupuncture register, you are a dry needler. It's a question of terminology. Keep the two separate, please.
Thank you. Okay, our next question that we have for you is, are we permitted to use paid or boosted posts on Facebook? And we're not talking about the posts that you've just told us we're not allowed to use, but if there are, for example, posts that are put up by the World Federation of Chiropractic or one of the other associations on research articles on certain conditions, are we allowed to share those to our page and boost them, pay for those posts to be distributed?
Well, I must confess your Luddite registrar had to understand what paid boosted posts meant, quite frankly. But the answer is it actually amounts to advertising. I did not appreciate that there was a distinction between that which the CASA may put out and whatever your World Chiropractic Council is called. But if you're doing it in your personal capacity, it amounts to advertising. It's the same as a flyer. So you're putting it out there, it constitutes an advertisement, and there is a fundamental difference between a notice and an advertisement. And yeah. If, however, to answer your question more correctly, if we go to Regulation 32D of the Regulations 176, then we look at the following acts by a practitioner shall not be regarded as advertising. The publication of articles in a health science nature and professional journals and books in connection with the health science field mentioning your name and your professional qualifications. The divulgence of his views on subjects of a health science nature in the lay press or on radio or TV by way of a speech or a lecture to a lay audience, mentioning his name, where such practitioner, here's the catch, does not pursue a private practice and is acting as a full-time or part-time health scientific official, and to answer the question, and is not advertising if it is done as an official member of a health scientific association or of the board in such a capacity and on instruction of such association or the board. So the answer is, if CASA does it, that's fine. You do it? No. Sorry to be such a dampener here tonight.
Dr. Molinder, with regards to interviews, I think there are a lot of our professionals who have been interviewed on all sorts of media, radio, television. What is your opinion, or what is the law on radio and television?
I consider the regulations to be a tad inflexible, shall we say. So I have never objected to anybody who asks whether they may, I have always agreed that it can be done. And I've always said, provided that you promote your profession and not your individual practice. You are there to talk about the chiropractic profession. I appreciate that, Radio 702 bothers you at 6:15 one morning. You can't get hold of the registrar to ask permission. So I have been inclined to be flexible about that. But please appreciate, from Council's perspective, it is very important, because if you look at our regulations, there are minimum criteria for education and training. All education and training in this country is approved by Council in terms of Section 16A of the Act. Otherwise, the institutions cannot offer such education and training. Now, please bear in mind, I deal with 11 professions and 12 registers. Some of those professions are much more esoteric than yours. But among your profession too, there are people who deviate from what I understand to be that which you have been taught, that which you are allowed within your legal scope of practice, and what they do or promote. So the point is, it's cohesion. It's one story. This is what chiropractic is in this country at this time, and this is what we do in accordance with our legal scope of practice. And it's not the registrar being difficult. I have seen many weird and wonderful things that have been done in terms of not your profession, I'm not singling you out, but in some of the others. So I do not have a primary objection to it. But then what happens is I get a flood of emails or telephone calls to say to me, Miss Dr. A chiropractor was on Radio 702. Who the hell chose him to speak about chiropractic? Guys, what do you want me to do about it? So there's a fine line. The bottom line is, I'm happy for you to speak. You don't promote your own practice. You keep within your legal scope of practice. You don't prattle on about weird and wonderful things that have got nothing to do with chiropractic, such as vibrational therapies where you don't actually touch the patient, for example, or vaccinations. What's it got to do with the chiropractor? It's not in your scope of practice. Keep it short, sweet, and to the point. This is what is taught in this country. This is what is allowed. Legal scopes of practice can develop over time. These are the new developments in chiropractic, as published by wherever. There's an amazing new technique when you have a subluxated big toe or something. So yes, I'm inclined to
Yeah, it's got it.
to allow.
Okay, thank you. Our next question we have is, are we allowed sharing posts with our practice information on them? And I suppose this is a two-part one, because it says all academic content to community pages.
Well,
And I think there's a differentiation there.
we've covered the academic content.
Yes.
I mean, I would rather that the CASA did that, and you can come up with an academic committee, and you can come up with a series of informational posts which will inform the patient about your profession and what it is that you do. And I personally don't have a problem with that at this time. The first part of the question
But
was?
the academic content, it's specifically the sharing it to community pages, so practice information.
Well, I don't think there's a problem, because what you have to do is, what you are allowed to do is you are allowed to make your professional services known. So allow me to give you the bottom line. It's a glorified telephone directory entry. That's what it is. It's your name, registered chiropractor, your A number. Why don't you put your A number on your documents? I'm not interested in the Board of Southern Healthcare Funders number. You can't get a number from them if you don't have an A number. Your A number stays with you from the moment you're registered, and it is never used, even after death. Your practice hours, your telephone numbers, your GPS coordinates, etc. So I don't have a problem if you put it on a community page. But in the end, quite frankly, why the obsession with Facebook and Twitter and Instagram? Your registrar's a Luddite. Why would I look at your Facebook page and then decide that I should go to you as a chiropractor? The best form of advertising is when you treat Tansani in Bredasdorp or somewhere in the Eastern Cape, and she tells all her friends in the old age home and her entire extended family what a wonderful chiropractor you are, how well you've treated her, how kind you were, how professional you were. The best form of advertising, even in the modern world, when it comes to healthcare professionals, is still by word of mouth. Trust in your healthcare professional is a very, very, very personal matter. And I still think it's how you run your practice and how people talk about you when they leave your door and to whom.
Dr. Mullender, talking about how people talk about you, that the Facebook is a social platform where people whom have seen you and hold you in high regard, and then somebody on a particular group asks a question, does anybody know of a chiropractor in the area who's reasonably priced? And what
doesn't drink
so
Johnny Walker
this is
either.
something that is out of the practitioner's.
Yes, I accept that in the modern world such a thing can happen, but it's not you doing it, and it's not you taking responsibility for it. But then we have the other aspect of Facebook where patient A has been treated by you. Patient A is dissatisfied. She doesn't tell you that she's dissatisfied, but she posts a nasty thing on Facebook. Well, then which is a concern, I have to say, and I've been thinking about that for a while, and I will still chat to external legal counsel about it. Of course, the law as it stands, we're talking about the law of obligations, namely the law of delict here. It's either an insult or it's defamation. It will be a problem for you because how many people have seen it? Unfortunately, I have to ask you to take legal advice, and you have to look to your malpractice insurance whether that covers such a scenario. On the other hand, there is no reason not to report that to counsel, because counsel can also send said patient a letter. So I accept that these are matters which do impinge on your practice. The fact of the matter is that you should not, however, react on Facebook to said person, and I wish to share with you a particular disciplinary case, a disciplinary hearing, an inquiry. As you know, all decisions of council and the professional board are promulgated in the Government Gazette, so it's not as though I'm sharing something with you which I am not. But long and involved saga via WhatsApp and Facebook and whatever. And one of the problems was that the practitioner engaged with the patient's mother over social networks and emails in an aggressive and threatening manner in contravention of the Code of Ethics. So there are other issues which are attached to that, to this particular case, but that is one such event. You're responsible for your own conduct. Because someone is being rude, insulting, and defamatory to you, don't react in the same way.
Right. I think there are one or two questions.
Well,
what would you like, Doctor?
I'm just thinking if we go through everything that we've discussed,
Okay. Sure.
and if there's still
So
questions,
we will get to you guys. Okay.
please just
Thank you.
May I
Let
say that just in community page posting, I think I've tried to look at the regulations and try to extrapolate that into the modern world. You're allowed to put leaflets out at the local library, etc., etc. Community page is just another one such way of doing that in the modern world.
Thank you. That has pretty much covered the next question we had about sharing posts and informative articles. So we're just going to skip to the next. We'd like to know the detail permissible in a post with regards to a change in opening hours. For example, if there's a public holiday coming up, and your practice is going to be open, how do you announce this on your Facebook page without breaking the law?
I don't see any issue with that, as provided it's factual information. Practice is open to Mondays to Friday, and is open on Thursday, the 23rd of September, 2018, which happens to be National Bride Day, no?
24th of September.
24th, Heritage Day. Depends on your heritage, of course, but yes, I don't particularly see that to be a problem. Be factual.
But does it become a problem if you put all that there and you end it off like some of these posts have said, come and see us for treating your headache or for your low back pain?
Canvassing and tarting, that's not allowed. Pure fact.
So you can't mention the conditions
No.
that you like to, not like to, that your scope of practice dictates that you should be treating.
Well, there are things called fields of practice and fields of interest. Now, you're limited to three fields of interest. So let's say pediatric subluxation of big toes and, I don't know, coccygeal pain or something. Whereas a field of practice means that you are mostly involved in that particular thing. Those are different from those of you who call yourself specialists. Now, you may not do so unless your speciality has been registered against your name in the Register for Chiropractic. And you have to prove to council that you have an additional qualification over and above that which you attained at either the UJ, DUT, or for our older practitioners, say Palmer College, etc., or other places. The problem with registering a speciality is, however, that you are then confined to that only. So do you really wish to register a speciality in pediatrics? It means you can only work with peds. You're not allowed to then work with anybody else. How will that impact your practice? You may choose to work with pediatrics only. I don't have an issue with that. But then if some adult comes in with, who knows, whatever problem, you may not treat them. That is why many GPs refuse to become specialists in this country, because it gives them a much broader scope of practice. But certainly, if you field of practice is predominantly sports chiropractic or whatever, and your fields of interest are there. So there's the different field of practice, fields of interest, speciality. You should draw up an appropriate distinction. But no, I mean, the most fatuous example latterly which came across my desk, and it's not a chiropractic case, is a YouTube video which firstly is disallowed, but secondly, they were using apricot kernels to cure cancer. Now, I mean, you know perfectly well that you are not allowed to make claims of curing anything. But chiropractic is now well known for treating neuromuscular skeletal conditions. That is what you have there. So your Facebook posting, purely factual. It's no different for other statutory health councils. And please don't raise the argument with me the way some people have. Oh, but what have you seen what Dr. So-and-so, the conventional medical practitioner, is doing down the road? It's not my counsel. It's not my problem. And if you think that I will allow, if you allow me to be personal, in my registrarship, to let that which I consider to be my duty slip, it's not going to happen.
Thank you. Does Allied Health Professions Council monitor social media at all in terms of inappropriate claims? And if so, how do they deal with that?
I'm afraid we don't have the staff capacity to monitor social media claims or websites or anything else. I place on record that I do not witch hunt. I do not pluck your name randomly out of the chiropractic register and then check your website. However, it is my duty to react to each and every complaint that is received. There is an inquiry process, disciplinary inquiry process that must be followed. It is Council's mandate to protect the health of the public. And what we actually do, before I continue, there is a duty on each and every one of you to check that your profession is being upheld to the highest standards. Somewhere in the Act. You should report matters to Council. I know that many of you report it to the Professional Association, and it is then forwarded to us, which is correct. So I have tightened up legal processes. Due process is now followed in the following way. A complaint is received about you. You will receive a letter from AHPCSA External Legal Counsel, namely our attorneys. Practitioners have complained that the letters are terribly nasty. No, they're not. They're written in legalese, which takes some getting used to. That letter is an opportunity for you to sit down and to think carefully about your conduct. You do not need to engage a lawyer to fight a lawyer. You may reply in your own capacity, be factual, think about it, answer the question. If you then accept that the conduct or alleged conduct is unprofessional, and you change your Facebook page, or you take down the testimonials on your website, which is another favorite thing that people do, not your group particularly, but across the board, I close the file. You don't listen, you don't respond, you ignore that lawyer's letter, I initiate the next step of the disciplinary inquiry process. I present all the evidence to the chairperson of council, whoever holds that position. The chairperson of council will usually direct me to obtain a response from you in terms of the aude alteram partem rule, because you've now ignored the lawyer's letter. That then goes back to the chairperson, who considers that, and he takes a further decision, most likely referred to the professional board. The professional board will check whether there is prima facie evidence of unprofessional conduct, and it may then decide to go to a disciplinary inquiry, which is a separate body, and then you will find that you will be called to testify, you will be subpoenaed, you will be required to, most people engage legal counsel, etc. There is we do not live in a country with a Napoleonic code. Thank God for that too. But what you are measured against is the concept of unprofessional conduct. Now, it is very interesting that in law, it lies almost solely within the power of a professional board to decide what is unprofessional conduct or not. Essentially, you're being evaluated by your peers. And you will find that only rarely will any higher court of law overturn that decision. So, it is impossible to put up a list of do's and don'ts. Unprofessional conduct is that which we look to. Is it unprofessional conduct? Are you engaged in that which you shouldn't be in your profession? It's a fairly broad concept, applicable to all healthcare professionals, not only to our council.
Thank you, Dr. Mallinder.
Am I supposed to be switching that on and off?
No, it's just I need to cough every now and then. You've answered about 4 of the questions in one, so thank you very much. But just to pick up on the one that you were talking about, reporting these transgressions to council. And Dr. Mallinder touched on something there where a lot of the complaints come to the association. I don't know whether it's out of professional jealousy or where it stems from. But remember, it's not the association's duty per se to forward everything on to Dr. Malander. And you're not ratting out anybody if you send those on to the Statutory Council.
However, comma.
However,
Once the procedure is complete, there is nothing to stop your association from taking action against the chiropractor who has contravened, whatever it may be, in terms of your own constitution. There is a disciplinary inquiry process in your constitution, and I have been had to assist in that at one particular stage. So that's one thing. The second thing is that I am sometimes much amused or bemused by the fact that when someone received a lawyer's letter, they said it was ridiculous, and why did I not send them an email first? Well, the fact of the matter is, when I checked the file, that's one practitioner who has never responded to any email I sent them. So we get a bit tetchy at Council House, but in any event, that's the procedure. Complaint is raised at the stage at which the lawyer engages with the accused, for want of a better word. Anonymity is guaranteed. It is not obligatory in law to disclose the identity of the complainant. However, once it goes further and it goes to the chairperson of council, then the complaint is made available to the accused, and both the reply by the accused must come back to chairperson, generally to professional board, possibly to inquiring body. It is not possible in law to be anonymous, quite frankly, because after all, we have had malicious or vexatious complaints in the past which have had no substance. So in a sense, while we have a mandate to protect the health of the public, there is a great degree of fairness in the procedure that is followed. And you are also protected from malicious or vexatious complaints. And I'm not only talking about within your profession, but on the part of patients as well. Maybe that the patient has got totally the wrong end of the stick, totally misunderstood anything. But yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Malander. So please remember to report those posts that are transgressing the law. It's tidying up our profession, and it's keeping it professional. And if you cannot understand the ethical guidelines and how they keep our profession clean and professional, have a lunch with Dr. Malander, and he will explain to you. They really do keep us professional.
Yes, if I may just add to that, thank you very much. Congratulations, you are the largest register under council. There are now some 825 chiropractors countrywide. Well, I lie, about 20 maybe abroad who are still registered. Yes, I think it's very important. I think what you have to appreciate from council's perspective is that if one of you does something wrong and it gets into the press, your entire profession is maligned. If it happens to a conventional medical practitioner, oh, it's just one rotten apple in a barrel. That's the difference. We are complementary health professions. We walk the road less traveled by. There is much skepticism. There's a lot of work to be done to educate the public. You need, as I often say in council to the councillors, to be like Calpurnia. You need to be beyond reproach.
Dr. Malander, with regards to Google, Google often has a search engine, and what is your opinion and the law on writing articles and Google then calling up that particular article? And obviously it then has your qualification, your name.
Yes, I wonder if Dr. Till is somewhere down there in cyberspace, because he always asks these hypothetical questions, and you will find that no lawyer can actually answer them because it always depends. So it depends on where the article was first published. Where was the article first published? Have you published it with permission? So it's legal and above board. It's in the Google search engine. someone's looking for subluxation of a big toe, and the article pops up. So,
Question is which magazine, hey?
well, yes, I mean, there are journals and journals, but I would leave it to you to choose to publish in a reputable journal. For those of you doing postgraduate studies, obviously to publish is a very important part of that, but that's usually regulated by the universities, and always go for a professional journal. I wouldn't publish an article on chiropractic in pets today, for example. Apart from which you're not allowed to touch animals, but that's a different issue.
So sticking with the Google theme, is Google advertising permissible? So
No, the word advertising is forbidden, and I wish you guys would stop using it. However, if you have a website and somehow you can access it via the search engine, then that's fine.
I think what they mean by this advert, if you type into Google chiropractor 4 ways, it comes up with chiropractors in 4 ways. But right at the top there are paid adverts where it says Dr. John from there, but it just lists their details.
Paid adverts
information.
not allowed, so don't do it. But if your name pops up in a Google search and it's linked, it's linked 4 ways to your name and your ad is professional. I mean, what do I do most times? I'm too lazy to look in the database. I simply go onto MediPages.
So
amazing what you find.
So
there.
what you're saying, as long as you don't have that little AD in a block on a Google search, you're fine. Great.
We are learning here tonight, Dr.
We
Silva.
are.
No, me personally.
And then one thing that we have touched on before, but the members need to be aware of, reviews. We talked about leaving reviews on Facebook, and you've already covered that. If a patient leaves a review for you, it needs to be removed. Reviews are not allowed. And then it was brought to our attention, reviews on Google cannot be removed by a practitioner.
Yeah, that is a problem. I accept that.
Okay.
However, if it comes to our attention, or as my French teacher says, however, comma, if it comes to our attention, then we do ask the practitioner to ensure that, provided you can show me that action has been taken. And then, 2 years along the line, I've forgotten about that particular instance, and then someone else complains. It is true that things are cached on Google. However, there is a facility to delete to request things to be deleted. I don't know how efficient that is.
Apparently not very on Google.
Yeah, no, indeed.
Okay. We just have 2 more questions here, and then we'll open it up.
All right, Dr. Malinda, there is some debate or rumors of the word clinic.
Oh.
What's it all about?
Okay, before I get to that, may I just share something with you, a parliamentary question? The Minister of Health was asked a question whether any of the specified doctors are facing disciplinary hearings or criminal charges, etc. The Minister replied that there are 50,538 doctors, medical and dental, on the HPCSA register. And then it said, it went down to the offences. Unethical advertising, 2 cases. Incompetence, 607. Over-servicing, 13. Breach of confidentiality, 20. Damaging the professional reputation of a colleague, 12. Insufficient care, treatment and mismanagement of patients, 263. Negligence, 2. But we'd rather go with unprofessional conduct, because negligence has to be proved very specifically in law. Unacceptable, inappropriate relationship with patients, 25. Refusing to treat patients, 53. Misdiagnosis, 0. Practicing outside scope of competence, 0. Fraudulent certificates, incorrect information on death certificates, 95. Refusing to complete forms, producing inaccurate reports, 74. Overcharging, 56. Informed consent issues, 23. Fraud and theft, 77. Bringing the professions into disrepute, 25. Employing unregistered practitioners, 0. Unethical dispensing, 5. Contempt of counsel, 0. Supersession, 37. Incorrect accounts, 49. Bad communication, 27. Touting, 5. Exposing patients to danger, 40. Section 51, which I'm not sure what that is, 2. Practicing without registration, 11. All right. Now, in the Allied Health Professions Act itself, if you wish to open a clinic or name your practice as such, then you are required to obtain council permission. It's the first step. In the regulations, somewhere in Regulation 54 of the 2001 regulations, it states that you must not confuse your clinic in any way with a medical clinic. But I spoke earlier very briefly about primary legislation. What has happened is that there is an amendment to the National Health Act, which is 61 of 2003, and from the 1st of January 2019, the word clinic has a very special meaning in law. And the persons who certify clinics are the Office of Health Standards Compliance. That has replaced AHPCSA legislation. And quite frankly, if you look at the National Health Amendment Act, you will find that there is no way in which your private practice can be a clinic. So if you have the word clinic in your name of your practice, remove it immediately. It is no longer applicable, and it will be pointed out to you if it is brought to my attention. Okay.
Thank you.
So, if for instance, hypothetically, if for instance, it's not called chiropractic clinic, but you are in a clinic.
Like in Santon Clinic or...
Well,
No, if you're in the Santon Clinic, and you have chiropractic rooms in the Santon Clinic.
No, we don't.
No, doctor. Please.
Let's take... No, we're not talking Santon Clinic. Let's make a fictitious one. Hyde Park Clinic.
Bredasdorp.
So if there's
Bredasdorp Clinic.
let's say there's a homeopath, there's a chiropractor, there's a physiotherapist. I know that's...
Multidisciplinary.
But
No,
let's,
there's not.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
the point-
so if there's a mixture, but you're not saying chiropractic clinic.
No, the point is that the Bredasdorp Clinic must meet all the requirements for a clinic for it to be able to use the word clinic in law. And the fact that chiropractors, physios, homeopaths, etc. may have practice rooms there is a separate thing. But then it's Dr. A, chiropractor, in the Bredasdorp Clinic. Am I being subtle enough? Yes, call it a centre, for God's sake. No, but but let us assume we have a proper legal clinic, and you happen to have rooms there. That's fine. It doesn't make your chiropractic practice a clinic. It's simply confined within the rooms of the Bredasdorp Clinic.
Okay, but now, Dr. Mullender, the word clinic is often used by even other professions, not just medical. There's a computer clinic, and there's a mathematics clinic, and there's a sports clinic. Now, is that not using the word clinic instead of hospital? Are you not defining...
No, there is a
the
difference
word?
between a clinic and a hospital.
But is there maybe... Because clinic...
No, the answer is no, Dr. Pritchard. A clinic needs to comply with the provisions of the National Health Amendment Act, and the certification of a health establishment which calls itself a clinic must be given by the Office of Health Standards Compliance. We can argue about the misuse of names 1,001 times. I have already indicated that while I'm your registrar, the law is applied. Full stop.
So remove clinic from all your names.
Call it a centre. And you know, the word wellness, I'm sorry guys,
Okay.
but the word wellness is so naff in my view.
So, okay, so we're going to...
We've got one more question.
One more question, then we'll open...
Okay.
Okay, our last question we've had come in was, is there any news on the amendments to the Act? Re the selected injectables being allowed, And what kind of time frame are we looking at?
Well, you are all probably aware of the fact that your legal scope of practice was promulgated by the Minister of Health for comment. How many chiropractors then thought they were allowed to inject? What do you not understand when something is promulgated for comment? So what happens is we then receive the comment and we have to apply our minds and we have to reply to the Minister of Health. And the Minister of Health then, obviously through his advisors, will take everything into consideration. Now, it's a long saga, but you are aware of the fact that complementary medicines are now being regulated. There are, I think, 6 categories, possibly more. There's a category for homeopathy, Ayurveda, Unani Tib, Chinese medicine, Western herbal, other herbal, and I may have left one out. But in addition, there will be regulation or registration requirements for vitamins, minerals, and health supplements. We have changed your legal scope of practice to bring in vitamins, minerals, and health supplements, although they're already there. And we have changed your legal scope of practice. Council accepted the professional board's suggestions, and the suggestion is being made to the Minister that you be allowed to inject. There is a major problem for us at the moment in terms of the Act, because if you go to section 38.3 L and M, or K and L, whichever, you will find that the Minister is not allowed to make any remedy, any scheduled substance, not allowed to give you legal access to any scheduled substance. Now, presumably this was dumped in our Act at the time when politics was, Health Professions Council, medical doctors was a lot stronger than it is. The fact of the matter is that certain vitamins, minerals, and health supplements might indeed be scheduled. Complementary medicines at this time are generally unscheduled. That means they're not even in Schedule 0. They have never been, which is OTC. They have never been placed in Schedule 0. They've never been scheduled. Now we sit with a problem that the scheduling committee might put vitamins, minerals, health supplements, application, you're allowed to have substances for application to the skin, might be scheduled. What we now have to do is we have to have section 38.3 repealed by Parliament, which is a major problem. All injectables are in Schedule 3 in any event, even saline. You don't have legal access to them. So, and in fact, the Act needs to be repealed. I have spoken to the South African Law Reform Commission. I have spoken to the Department of Health. It's a work in progress. I will not be your registrar when it finally happens, because only 2 health bills are considered in any 1 year in Parliament, in sitting of Parliament. We are not on a priority list. There's a problem with the NHI bill as well, which we can touch on briefly afterwards. So the question then is, what injectables do you want to use? I have never been informed by your professional board or by CASA. What is it which you wish to inject?
All of them.
Because let's not be naive, people. Scopes of practice can and do overlap. Turf protection is a problem in terms of the Competition Act in this country. But do you seriously believe the medical doctors are going to allow you to inject? Do you seriously believe that the homeopaths will not object to you using homeopathic injectables? It's another fight for another time. But please be realistic about it. You can't have everything. And even if we are allowed, even if we finally get to the point where your injectables are allowed and legal access has been granted, you will still have to undergo a course in injectables. And I'm not talking about the weekend course that many of the older people attended way back when and injected kinds of other substances. NHI. A reading of the NHI, while it speaks about healthcare providers, we are a recognized legal healthcare provider in terms of the National Health Act. We are excluded further down, as indeed are those persons, well, actually they're not registered yet, but proposed to be registered with the Interim Traditional Health Practitioners Council. The diviners, the herbalists, the birth attendants, and the traditional surgeons. So you will receive at some stage in the near future a bulk email from me in which I ask you, please, to object to the NHI bill, because you are a first port of call primary healthcare practitioner. And that is the argument, because the NHI is about primary healthcare. You will see they prattle on further down in the schedule about how if we do render services to patients, we have to inform him or her of those complementary services which they will have to pay for themselves. The word complementary in that sense means complementary to that which is offered by the NHI, but not allowed, so that it's not complementary in terms of our professions. The same goes for the Health Professions Council. The bill is vague and embarrassing in law, and quite frankly, I would like to see which complementary services the Health Professions Council registered practitioners and persons will not be allowed to have on the NHI. Are we talking about psychology, podiatry, biokinetics, physiotherapy? I don't know, and the minister's not answering us.
Thank you. Just now that you've brought up NHI and your letter that you will be sending out, would you be expecting objections from each practitioner or from the association as a whole?
No. In addition to that which council prepares, in addition to that which the major stakeholder for chiropractic prepares, I would like you to react in your personal capacity.
Thank you.
And I will give you some pointers, but please don't forward my email to the Department of Health. Send a separate email.
Just for the members, the National Health Act,
The
bill has already been forwarded to the lawyers, and the association is busy drafting a response as we speak. But as Dr. Mallinder has alluded to, we need your input. So please respond. When you get those emails, please respond. This is your future. You need to have a say in it. So don't just sit back and think the association's going to do it all for you. We are. We are doing our bit, but we need you to do your bit as well. Thank you, Dr. Mallinder. We're going to, are you okay for us to open the floor for questions? I think we've got, there we go.
No comments from the peanut gallery, yeah?
Okay, please make sure the mic's working. It's not, just tap it a few times.
Dr. Marina, so.
Yes.
There we
Okay,
go.
there we go.
Should know how to work one of
Microphone.
these by now. Dr. Mallinder, I just want to check, you were talking about video in terms of open media. If you have a closed group, what happens, like, just to give you context of what I'm thinking of, I have a closed group where it's only professionals that are allowed into that group. Would I be allowed to do video within context of them?
And Dr. Marinas, what happens when someone hacks it and then they are suitably knocked because you have in fact breached confidentiality by discussing certain matters on the closed group with other practitioners? Because that's a breach of confidentiality, and the hacked person understands it.
Absolutely. If it was to be strictly academic stuff.
Yeah.
If it was to be strictly teaching stuff.
Yes, I would be in favor of that, but the point is that anything can be hacked, and your buddies on the closed group give away the access details, and then it gets into the public, so you need to be secure. I have yet to inform my chairperson, but I am discussing two particular scenarios with different groupings, and the first is that in conjunction with our colleagues at the Health Professions Council and indeed the other councils, we are looking at a web platform. Is that the right word?
Yes.
Anyway, open group and closed group. And the open group is really aimed at promoting knowledge of all professions, all healthcare professions, to the public. And the closed group will be something like you suggest, where you may in fact, even as a chiropractor, well, not even, but as a chiropractor, go and watch an orthopedic knee replacement or something like that. So you live in the modern world. You have to be very careful what you put on it. It should be always professional. It's a closed group. That's fine. And don't make any rude remarks about the registrar on it either.
Yes, please don't.
All right, we have another one, Dr. Arkin. The mic's not working.
Is that better? Forgive me if I don't mean to come across the wrong way, because I'm very backwards in terms of Facebook, Instagram, and everything, exactly as you said you are. But I feel like we are not. Facebook, Instagram, social media is very much the way forward. I don't treat Tanya and Bradasdorp. I treat Hugo, who's a 23-year-old rugby player who does not know how to converse with his friends, but only posts on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And that is how he tells people he's had a good. That is how he says, go to Natalie, go to so-and-so.
Yes, but it's not you promoting yourself. It's someone else promoting you.
Yes, I understand.
And that's something I can't do anything about it. But by the same token, the danger is that 23-year-old Hugo, who's a rugby player, might not like what you've done to him, and then you sit with a negative thing.
In the same way, Tanya Bradasdorp says to all her friends, oh, it hurt me, it's bad. There's always, they say, you have a bad experience, you'll tell 10 people, you have a good one, you'll tell 2. But I feel like we're not quite addressing how we should deal with Facebook, because we can't just not deal with it.
All right, here's the challenge that the registrar poses for the CASA, and that is that why don't you come up with a position paper for your professional board to consider as to how the regulations should be changed to accommodate making professional services known in the modern era on Facebook. Because that will enable us to look to the regulations when they're redrafted, and we will look to other legislation. I am in the process of unbundling 3 sets of regulations, and I'm trying to make them specific, if you will. So I would appreciate your thoughts.
Any volunteers for that job?
Yeah. Ooh, all rush.
Okay, anybody under 30 to volunteer for the job?
Because you can hardly expect me, at my age and a product of my generation who still studied Latin, to be bothered about Facebook.
And therein lies the problem is the...
What,
You
studying
see that?
Latin?
No. The number of hands that went up to
Yes.
assist with that.
That's it.
So-
Always like that. It's always the few that do the work.
And
Dr. Mallinder, we've got some questions that are coming through on the webcast. Can we have
they're
Michael
not
just read them to you?
Okay.
They are not from Dr.
not-
Till.
And it's not from Facebook. Okay.
It's
When
not-
when a complaint about advertising is done to council,
Is
Does-
made, yes.
does the person complaining get informed to what is being done to resolve the problem?
It's a good question. It depends, generally speaking, it depends on the nature of the complaint. If it is particularly serious and it goes the disciplinary inquiry route, then of course the complainant is kept informed at all times. But I also have to, in a sense, please remember that even if you are an accused, you have legal rights. So I need to be very careful in what I say and what I do. But in essence, I think that if you've complained, practitioner A complains about practitioner's B website. Practitioner A keeps on checking, and then practitioner B can see that the website is done. So I don't always revert. It is something which I will consider going forward. Thank you for the question.
Thank you. We've got someone jumping back to the Google ad question. Was the problem that the promotion strategy was paid for, or the
Yes.
actual Google ad itself? There we go. It's because it was paid for.
And it's not an ad. It's a factual notification. Please stop using the word advertising. Advertising is prescribed in terms of the law. You are making your professional services known.
Could it be paid to have your website higher on the search criteria on a specific
Well,
keyword
that's
search?
that's touting and canvassing.
Okay. And then we have a question in from Dr. Sean Lewis, signage and banners. Some practitioners have surfboard flags 4 meters high on and off their properties.
Well, the signage and banners is regulated in law. There are specific dimensions as to what you are allowed and what you are not allowed. And I would suggest that you look to those. I do not recall them, but I'll send them to the CASA. And I don't recall the dimensions.
Are
to
they
be
not
frank.
in the guidelines?
They might very
I
well
think
be.
it's no more than 2 by 1, no more than two colours or something, but they're in the guidelines.
So
Okay.
this massive thing the size of a
Melissa?
container on the top of a Nedbank building is not allowed.
Okay.
It happened.
Dr. De Wet has a question.
Dr. De Wet, you should know better. You were chairperson of the board.
Exactly why I'm commenting. As far as I recall, it was you could advertise chiropractic, the name of chiropractic, as big as you like, but you cannot say Dr. Louis Mullender, chiropractor.
No,
as
that's
big as
very
you want.
false.
I mean,
That's completely misleading.
you were
Apart
allowed-
possibly from being an insult, I have to say.
I reserve comment. You could promote the practice, but not the practitioner.
We will
And
check
just
for you.
checking, I think that was the way it was written.
Thank you, Dr. De Wet. We will check.
Are there any more questions from the floor?
Dr. Louis Mullender, chiropractor, indeed. What a notion.
Thank you for taking my question. I have had in the past, and I don't know if any other chiropractor has actually been approached in this room, that's why I'm putting this question out there, with regards to advertising. But I've had a lot of marketers who obviously come up and say, oh, we can help promote your practice. And I've actually told them and said, but these are the guidelines. And I send the whole thing from Allied Health through to them, and they're like, oh, no, but it's fine because we've actually cleared this information.
No,
with,
absolutely not. It's a load of nonsense. That which is in the... Look, guys, I don't make the law, all right? That's what there is, and that's what I have to work with. That's why I've invited you to give me some ideas as to how we can change social media going forward and maybe make the regulations more friendly to promoting yourself. It's the same as your accountant who comes and tells you you need a PTY limited or you can buy a CC off the shelf. It may be valid for tax reasons, but you have to retain personal liability at all times because you are a healthcare practitioner. The accountants don't know that. The marketers don't know that. The branders don't know that. They're trying to be slick. They're trying to take your money. Forgive me for being cynical.
Absolutely.
And if you have any problems, refer them to me.
Okay. And sorry, just on that, because when I actually, because this is the thing, I obviously asked them exactly how do you go about with regards to promoting, so that I can have an idea of exactly what process they follow, whether or not it falls within the legal rights of us as a practitioner or not. Anyway, the point is that they always go back to something called blogs. And obviously blogs, if you look up the terminology, it's referred to actually a writing in your personal capacity.
Okay.
So just
So
to
we've-
touch on that or not?
No, we've covered that. Basically, the blogs must come from the CASA. And they must conform to education and training parameters rather than esoteric elements of whatever you choose to believe your profession might evolve into.
Dr. Mullender, just going on what she was saying is, my interpretation is talking about a blog. If the person says, responds to any kind of question, but replies Michael Pritchard, not Dr. Michael Pritchard, chiropractor, because you're, as a citizen, allowed to partake
Yes,
in the use. However, your name is out there if someone looks you up
Yes,
as...
well, I mean, there's obviously a distinction between that which you do in your private capacity and that which you do as a professional chiropractor, and that's the distinction.
But with regards to chiropractic or spinal health or musculoskeletal health, but you as a citizen, not as doctor, makes a comment. Is there a problem?
Well, as I said to Dr. Till, it depends on the circumstances of the case. These are hypothetical questions, and the point is that you have formulated in your mind a scenario. I need to look at the background and I need to look at the reaction before I can understand whether there might have been a transgression or not. So it's very difficult. Just be professional at all times.
Thank you. We have some questions from
Dr.
the
Till.
webcast. From Dr. Till, please ask a
Dr.
question.
Till, I'm joking. Your question's always perfectly sound.
Okay. It's a question from Hannah. If you were a new practitioner starting out, how would you make your services known?
Well, through through whichever you may place your information in any medium whatsoever, any number of times. But in the end, Dr. Hannah, you're only going to be as good as you are in practice, and your practitioners will, your patients will recommend you to other people. I appreciate it takes a while to set up a practice. You will all have understood that, as I did. So, yeah.
We have another question here, and could you use closed sites such as MailChimp to message to patient? That sounds a bit funny, but MailChimp is a bulk email site. So even I can answer that and say, no, you cannot use bulk email to your...
Well, quite frankly, if you were to be moving your practice, so you're moving from Bredasdorp to Pitzonwater, then I would agree that a mail of that nature is in order. Otherwise, bulk emailing is part of the Consumer Protection Act, and bulk emailing is regulated by that act. So you would need to look at that specifically to understand it. Change of address? Why not?
Okay, we have another question.
I would not engage in social media or any other form of media when communicating with a patient. You must make time for your patients. You can be available on the telephone, and if there is a problem with your treatment, why don't you invite the patient to come into your practice, and you can discuss it with them. If it then goes further and a complaint is laid, that is in your favor. You have attempted to mediate, you have attempted to explain, you have attempted to put forward your point of view. Very often it's not possible. Patients get angry, they don't want to see you again, they simply lay a complaint. But I'm not in favor of
just a question from the crowdcast again. I think it's from Dr. Bales. Getting reprimanded by counsel for a Facebook or social media video post. What is the timeline given to remove such a post, as they are the only person that can remove such a post?
24 hours.
24 hours, okay.
Dr. Malanda, can I just add to that your comments with the complaint to the practitioners to please add that in their, potentially for their safety, add such events in their SOAP notes of that patient to say on this date.
Yes, of course, absolutely.
Even though you're not treating that patient, remember to still draw that file, put that information in the file, so if your records are needed, you can show due course in black and white, just a comment.
Thank you, Dr. De Wet. Are there more questions from the floor?
Dr. Irons.
Dr. Irons, sorry, I can't see you for the blinding light.
Not a problem. Can you hear me?
Your mic's not on.
Working? Yeah. So does that mean that newsletters are not allowed to be sent out to patients?
What do you want to put in the newsletter?
It's not me. I've just seen that newsletters are being sent out.
Should have been a lawyer, Dr. Down.
And secondly, in one or two of the newsletters, I have seen offers of discounts for treatments.
No, discounting is not allowed, contract servicing is not allowed, sharing of fees is not allowed. I mean, you guys know this. It's not as though you haven't been told before, but why do you people still take chances? It makes my life a little bit more difficult.
Could you elaborate on... I hear you, and I absolutely agree with you, but it's still happening. Could you just do 2 or 3 sentences about what constitutes a contracting practice, contracts, and what you've just said?
I accept in chiropractic treatment that you may wish to see a patient twice after the initial consult, for example, depending on the injury. So I accept that you might say to them, but you do need to come and see me tomorrow. We need a bit of rest, R&R, we need inflammation to go down. I then still want to check your spine. That's fine. You charge for the consultation that you've just given. When the patient comes back, you charge. You don't sell 10 treatments up front at a discount. That is contract servicing. It is not allowed. So, clear enough?
I think so. I hope they understood that. So no annual packages, please. Any more questions? There's
We do
another
have,
question from Dr. Young.
Okay, guys, we only have about 8 minutes left on the webcast. Manus, what are we going to do? Are we out for time with the webcast, or is there any additional?
Can we renew it?
Can you renew it? About how long? 5 to 10 minutes.
Well,
So-
let's take one more question, and
Okay.
if there aren't any more, then we're done.
Yes, may I say, Dr. Pritchard, you must tell Nedbank that chiropractic is about ergonomics and posture.
Yeah.
This is an incredibly hard chair.
I do agree.
Yes.
I do agree.
So, Dr. Young, make it short.
And I'm now getting sciatica, and I'm not letting anybody touch my back except for Dr. Yelverton or Dr.
All right,
Lawson.
Okay.
Who's got a question?
So,
Dr. Young.
Sorry, just going back to your whole thing about discounts. What happens in the event if it's like, for example, pensioner prices or perhaps
But
children
that's a
and
separate
pediatrics?
issue. You've done that up front and you've advertised it in your listen, he's talking about advertising. You've placed the relevant notification in your consulting room, and for pensioners you do offer a. But what I am talking about is if you take 10 treatments, you get a 50% discount. That is what you are more than welcome to say that yuppies are charged at this rate and pensioners are charged at that rate. And people who go to the Sandton Clinic obviously pay a lot more or whatever. So, separate issues.
So you can't have
And
deals.
what about community care, guys? How many have you ever asked me for a community care approval for CPD purposes?
2 people in our profession?
That's correct. Out of 825, you do the math. Okay. Community care, when you give voluntarily of your time and you go to, for example, a school for underprivileged children, provided you have the necessary permission to treat, of course, or you go to an old age home, or you go to an HIV center, and you give of your time voluntarily. You apply to council, we will grant you CPD provided your professional board is happy with it. And the only thing that council requires is that it is a sustainable project, that you don't up and leave, that you stay there for a length of time, because it is a community outreach project. It's another way of making your profession known.
It's up to you.
Thank you. Do we have plenty more questions? We need to decide. The webcast is going to cut off now. Do we have time for one more question?
All right. Anybody else? Manus? Okay, so there are quite a few more on the crowdcast. Should we give it?
We need about
5 minutes.
4 minutes, 4-5
just
minutes
so
break.
we can stand up and stretch.
Okay,
And those people watching on crowdcast, stay there, but link back on. Thanks.